Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 101 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Celozo. Today, Chris and I are pumped to bring back onto the show. She was on episode 24, but joining us again, Megan Stanczak from Stanczak Retail Consulting. What's up, Megan?
Hey, how are you, Dustin?
Doing great.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. We were just talking about how time is flying because it seems like we just talked to you, but it was way back in October, which is crazy. And a lot of, it's just the way it works. And things change so fast in the Amazon world. There's probably a whole bunch of different things to talk about since the last time we chatted, but we're glad to get you back on. But real quick, before we go into just our conversation, why don't you, anybody that didn't listen, let's tell a little bit about yourself and how you got in the Amazon space and what you're doing with your consulting firm.
Sure. So I own Stanczak Retail Consulting, and I help small brands and private label sellers how to list their product the right way on Amazon, right? So we do all the SEO stuff, all the organic optimization, and then we lay out strategy as to how to grow past that, right? So after we've done all the on-page SEO, what are those next steps to take? I started selling on Amazon, oh my God, over a decade ago. I worked for a small e-commerce sporting goods store. And overnight, Google made a change to their algorithm and we lost like 50% of our sales. So we really quickly had to react and figure out where are we going to sell to make sure that the business and the employees that this small business supports, continues to stay in business. So the co-owners and we just quickly threw up all of our products on Amazon, thousands of products, and were shocked at the sales that came in. So we're like, hey, we got to put all of our efforts into growing this thing. And we didn't know what we were doing. So it was all trial and error. And over the years, we learned what to do, what not to do. Got us suspended a couple times, either ASINs or, got in trouble with our account. So we really figured out the right way to grow and to make a profit, right? That's the hard part on Amazon.
I got to touch on that because it's interesting. I think this is interesting about all businesses. Sometimes the crises happen and it forces you to pivot, and it's a benefit. Yeah. And so this, where you lost traffic from Google overnight, you had to pivot and shift. But man, took you guys onto Amazon probably way before a lot of other people, and that was probably a massive benefit in the long run to have that happen.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And as we continue to sell and we're like, our business is taking off on Amazon. After a few years, our business started to decline and we couldn't figure out why. We're like, we're doing everything right. What's going on here? And it was just, there was more and more competitors. So I'm seeing that a lot with some of my clients who have been selling on Amazon for a long time now. They've been struggling with that same problem.
Mm-hmm. Let's touch base on that. You mentioned you got some clients. What's going on? I know we talked a little bit about on episode 24 back. Gosh, we just talked about a little bit. That was like 8-9 months ago. That's crazy. But what are you doing now with clients? And you kind of transition to your own agency.
Sure. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of small businesses who are calling us, emailing us this year. Saying, hey, I need your help. I need you to optimize my listing for me. Last year, it was a lot of one-on-one consultations, right? Everybody was trying to DIY it. And, we were in crisis mode because of COVID and nobody wanted to spend the money for a service that was done for you. But they wanted to learn how to do it themselves. So we're doing a ton of consultations last year. I created an e-course last year to get to sellers who really had a lower budget. But this year, everybody's like, I don't want to do it myself. Can you do it for me? I got my check in the mail from the government. I'm ready to invest. So that's really where we are now.
I think we're seeing the same thing on our end as far as PPC goes. We had a lot of people trying to figure out Amazon ads, and we did a lot of one-on-one calls with them. and now they're coming back thinking, hey, can we do this expert support where we just get rid of it and you guys do it? Because they've been through it and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we should make some type of like e-course book, Dustin, where we're like,
exactly.
Here's where you go. So is that why you created that? Is that why you created that little ebook course or e-course, just to kind of like give it like initial help to kind of get started?
Yeah, like here's some help to get started, and just for some of those smaller businesses who were either just getting started or really could not commit money during a time where a lot of businesses couldn't commit money. I just wanted something that was like easy access for them, something that was valuable for them, something that could help them move forward in their business, but not at like a huge investment, right? Like I also offer a one-on-one 8-week training course that's, a few $1,000s. So the e-course is something that offers the same type of material. Obviously, it's not customized to your business, but the same type of learning material at a reasonable price that can really help you propel.
I think that. It kind of gives them an initial thing.
Yeah, I think there's something to that too. As soon as, like, we could take PPC as an example, as soon as you start educating yourself on it, you realize how much that help is worth.
Totally.
When they're doing, you're like, okay, I didn't realize there was so much involved in this. And same thing with creating listings. There's so much involved in it, and especially for people that are out there. I'm just, because you touched on this a second ago, where you're talking about you've had clients where now there's more competition in their space. They've maybe been kind of coasting along with some stable sales, and now more in their space. And so now, unless they do something, like if they spruce up their images, I've done that myself wrong so many times. Get comfortable with a listing and not keep trying to optimize it. And then you get burned by competitors. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that. And I'm sure you're seeing also a lot of people that are in the space for the first time. They've been in traditional retail, and now they're trying to be on Amazon. And there's a lot. I'm sure there's different strategies you have to employ there.
Absolutely. I have clients who have been selling their product for decades, right? But they're just now starting in Amazon. So they've got all the content, they've got all the images, they've got really great quality images. They just don't know what they're doing on Amazon, which is so fair, right? Mm-hmm. It's pretty complicated when you first log into Seller Central for the first time. You're like, what the hell am I supposed to do? So I've got clients like that, but then I also have clients who kind of do know what they're doing with Amazon, but they just need somebody else to take it over, right? They're a one-person show, kind of like me. I don't have employees, so they're a one-person show, and they just need to contract that work out to someone else.
Yeah, and it can be overwhelming. I mean, I'm in the process right now of making a couple listings. And every time I do it, I'm like, there are a lot of steps involved in creating this listing and doing it all right. But let's jump into this topic, because I think this is interesting. Is a lot of people, they get the concept of making a good listing, they get the concept of running ads to try to grow, but there's strategies to enhance your organic growth, just based on, I'm sure, just enhancing the optimization of your listing and targeting certain things. Let's talk about things that you can do to get more organic growth for your products.
Sure. So, the one thing that I see that most clients don't know how to do, and they haven't, or if they do know that they should be doing it, they don't know how to go about doing it, is keyword research. And then just implementing that effectively into the listing. Keyword research is really the tricky one, though. If you're not on Helium 10, get on Helium 10. It's totally worth it. I think they have a free first month trial or whatever. So even if you just need to go on there for the first month and do some keyword research for, maybe you only have one listing, right? They've got training videos in there that are super helpful. But keyword research is really the big miss that I see. And then again, getting those keywords and the right keywords into the product title, the bullet points, the product description, and other areas like search term fields, subject matter fields, all that good stuff.
We talk to sellers. I know we say this a lot. We talk to sellers every day, and it blows my mind, because we're in the space, but it still shocks me when people are like, I've never heard of helium-10. I'm like, where you been?
Yeah.
Where you been?
Yeah.
They're everywhere. But you're right. It's a great tool to do like keyword research, figure out what your competitors are ranking for or indexing for, and then you can kind of model your listing after those right keywords that your competitors are doing. And this goes hand in hand with PPC. Like if you have a bad listing and you don't take the time to do a right title and right bullet points and good descriptions even now, and I've even heard some that say your enhanced brand content or A+ content, whatever they call it, when you put the keywords in those, that's even getting some type of indexing. So if you don't do that stuff, it just you're hurting yourself. So
it's a foundation. It's a foundation, right? So if you build a house with a shitty foundation, it's going to fall down. You know, it's not going to last. It's not going to be sustainable. You have to do. It's annoying. It's not fun, but you have to do it in order to sustain that business long term.
I use the analogy like look at your listing as like your office. You want to make it really nice and clean. I had a guy say, "Well, my office looks like crap, so I don't care." I'm like, "Okay, bad analogy. How about your house?"
Wrong analogy for him.
Right. But
so you're right, though.
Yeah, and you make a good point about how other things won't work, because you see it all the time where someone launches an ad campaign, and then the first thing that come to us is, "Why are my ads not showing for these keywords?" Well, it's like, because you're not indexed for them, or you have a bad relevancy score for them. You got to work on your listing a lot if you're going to target those things. Amazon's not just going to show you just because you're bidding high.
Yeah,
they want to show something that's going to convert to a sale. So that's critical. I mean,
yeah, you guys send me clients all the time where it's like, we won't work with you yet because you are not optimized, right? Because you know, I mean, you know, if they're not optimized, you know, the advertising performance is going to be terrible. So it's, you know, you got to get that stuff in line in order to effectively spend advertising dollars, right? You're basically just throwing money out of your window if you don't optimize your listing first.
And I think people miss the point. Like they throw a product up, they get the listing done, they just throw it together, and then the next thing they think that they need to do is advertising. Amazon's getting a little bit better. They're kind of like listing quality score or like a listing grading scale to like give you an idea, like, hey, you maybe need to move this search term or add more keywords here. So it's getting better, but I wish it was more like front and center. Like when you go to launch an ad, they scan your listing and say, nope, can't run ads yet. You need to do like you need to do this or something, because it's hard to scale a product page when the page doesn't have any bones behind it. It just looks terrible.
Right.
So
right. And especially those new pages, right? Like if it's a brand new product, there's no reviews. You know, the images, there are images and they're good images, but there's not a lot of them. You know, conversion rate's so important to your SEO, but also to like the person who's buying your product, right? So if they're looking at a listing that's not really informative and can't get the point across to them as to what it is and how it's going to help them within a matter of like 5 seconds, they're going to leave the page. So all that's really important. And it's something that, you know, I work with my customers on as well.
I know we've touched on it in the past of like titles, bullets, and images. They all kind of go together as one. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. Like if you had to go spend the money and invest somewhere, are you going more like on the title and bullet point side, or are you spending more of your money on photos and getting the right photos and portraying the right message there?
So in terms of spending money, photos, right? Your title is equally as important. Title and images kind of go hand in hand. But in terms of time commitment and money commitment, your photos are going to take really a big chunk of that. Title, you can DIY it if you understand how to do that research. Plus with like the minimal investment of Helium-10 and watching a few of their training videos, you can figure out the title. But images is where you're going to need a professional, right? Not everybody knows how to take a product image. Not everybody knows the right lighting. We can all try to do that and watch some YouTube videos, but at the end of the day, like most of us don't have the equipment, right?
Yeah.
So photos is really where you want to invest.
Yeah, that's a skill. I mean, there's people that have the right eye for that, the way they can stage a product, and like you're talking about lighting.
Dustin's son is all into that.
Yeah.
He's huge.
But my son, who's 14, absolutely loves Photoshop and has been working on this. So I'm actually
nice.
Kind of lucky. He's now my department. He's getting better and better and better. And
nice.
He loves it. I'm just like encouraging it. And every time he does something, I think number one, there's no way I could have done that.
Yeah.
Number two, like, how did you know to like lay it that way so it would look better? I mean, just really, I think there's a skill there that people have an eye for it. And yeah, I mean, I've paid a lot of money for pictures before he did that. And if you don't have that, you should pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I might need to hire him.
Yeah, he would love that.
Yeah, he would. He loves it.
Yeah, and he's getting better and better. It's fun because I'm not artistic in that way. And so it's fun to see that he has that, and it's a good combination. He's getting his feet wet now in this world, in this business.
Good for him. Good for him.
But it is it's so important to the listing. I mean, let's just say, do some examples. Like, what have you seen when you make a change to some, let's say it's been a client or someone who's had a product for a while and they just need to spruce it up. I mean, when you change images and titles, I mean, are you seeing without ads and other things just a big boost in their organic rankings or sales?
Yeah.
What's the main driver? Okay, so some things. What are you saying that you're doing that's making those boosts?
So obviously, the keyword optimization, definitely, and then the initial boost, right? So you've got the keyword optimization. A big one is, if your ASINs are individual ASINs and they're not linked in a parent-child relationship, and they should be, that's like an instant boost in sales. Instant, right? Like, I do it, and within a few hours, I see sales increase, and it takes very little effort. It's a little complicated. It's not the most user-friendly feature in Seller Central, but that instantly will see an increase. I think things like images, product reviews, all that stuff, that's going to be the kind of thing that maintains your increase and your exponential increase in sales over time. But in terms of your instant increase, that's going to be your keyword optimization and linking any ASINs together that should be linked together.
And are you doing that? You probably are, with flat files and just doing like bulk updates, or are you going straight to Seller Central and doing it on the listing?
I do. I'll do the bulk updates. I'm just more comfortable doing that. I always tell sellers, if you're more comfortable doing it the manual way, by all means, do it the way that you're comfortable with, just because it could create more errors and issues for you down the road. But for me, I'm more comfortable with the bulk upload. When I start doing it manually, I'm like, wait, what am I doing?
Yeah, and I'm the opposite. Like, if I do bulk, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm going to mess something up.
I know. It's so funny how important that is, and how easily, like, I freak out when I do something. I'm like, oh God, this listing's a goner.
Yeah.
If I push this button out, there's like 500 reviews out the window. I'm losing it. You always get so nervous when you try to link them up and stuff, but it works every time.
Yeah, it always works. I know. I still get nervous too, especially when the listings have a lot of reviews, like you said. I'm like, oh my God, please work. But I know it's going to work every time, right? It's just that,
and there's always
that one glitch.
Yeah.
I like
how scary it is. Like, one delay, like you'll submit it like, 15 minutes, an hour.
I will say a good tip is to, if you're worried about that happening, take a screenshot of all your ASINs in Seller Central. That way, if it does happen, and for whatever reason it creates a new ASIN and you want your old ASIN back, you can just go to add a product and plug that ASIN in, and everything's still saved in the Amazon catalog. Unless you deleted it, which don't delete things unless you're confident of what you're doing.
I'll tell you what, I think that is my number one stumbling block, and what holds me back is I'm always concerned that something's going to break if I do this. So whatever it is, it's like changing images. I'm like, oh no, it's going to all index wrong. But I'm getting better at that as going. But it's interesting. It can hold you back when you do that. So
just always have a backup. If you always have a backup, like the screenshot of your ASINs, the backup of your images, backup of your content. I always screenshot, the content, or copy and paste it into a Word document, just so that if anything is lost, you have a backup.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Something I've been hearing is there's like, and you may have seen this, or you may have been known with this, but I haven't personally had this attack, but it's where somebody can literally like change your listing and like add banned keywords or something to your search term field, and then your listing gets suppressed. Then you got to prove to Amazon that it wasn't like that or something. I've been hearing where there's been a lot of black hat going on where people's listings all of a sudden get flagged as adult products, and then their listing goes down.
Oh man!
And a way to prevent that is to download the listing or something to keep it as a backup. That way, if that does happen, you can just upload the bulk file again and get reinstated. Or I'm not sure. Are you seeing that on your end?
No, I'm not seeing that on my end, but I work with mainly brands, trademark registered brands, right? So they're Amazon brand registered owners for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. So that's not happening to them because they don't have other sellers selling their product. They're not selling their product wholesale. Or if they are, they've got a no third policy or a no third party marketplace policy intact. So they don't have other sellers on their listing. But, that would be a good strategy to just like have a backup of the legal content that you can upload. I always recommend, if you are a brand owner, to really have a solid no third product marketplace policy, so that your wholesalers are not allowed to sell on like eBay, Amazon, Walmart. They're allowed to sell on their websites, but not on those third party marketplaces. It just, you're kind of flushing margin down the toilet when you do that.
I like your initial point that you brought up about merging listings if they're variations. I think for a lot of newer sellers, they don't understand the importance of. Variations is always a million times better than having them separate. You get so many benefits: combined reviews, your traffic. If you've got a product that's a hero product out of the variations, your conversion rate's going to go higher. There's all kinds of things that are better with that setup. So it's a good point you brought up. I think that for anyone out there who's newer, that's critical. Make sure you set up the things as variations.
And some new sellers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, some new sellers don't even realize that that's an option, or they know it's an option. They just don't know how to actually execute it.
Yeah, I get torn on that because there has to be a point where you split that off because you want to take over more real estate for that particular keyword that you're going after. And maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, but if I'm selling a dog brush and I got different colors of it, and I've got 1,000 reviews on the listing, I could potentially take those variations off of the parent and have 4 individual products on page 1, and instead of having just one on page 1. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the right angle to go.
So you could do that. I think Amazon frowns upon it. So you kind of want to be careful there. You don't want to really get in their bad graces. I've not seen someone do that and then also get flagged for it. So again, it's probably something you could do. It probably falls in like the gray hat area. What I do is I teach like the by the book Amazon strategies, right? Because I've seen accounts lose a lot more money than they would have made by doing the things that are, kind of crossing the line a little bit in terms of Amazon policy. It's just, in my opinion, it's not really worth it.
Good.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, so now let's talk. So that's good for the organic search. But I do have another question about the organic. How important are all the back end keywords? There's lots of fields that you can fill out in here. There's like intended use, who's your target audience, even things like other attributes, which is like, what is that? So these are fields that you can, in subject matter. When you're filling these out, is there like some technique that you're using, or are you just putting the most obvious thing there? Like the target audience is, female adults or whatever is the product. What's your strategy on all that back end stuff?
So it depends on the field, right? So I always say fill out as many fields that are as relevant to you and your product as possible, right? There's some fields in there that have valid values or like a drop down option that's not going to make sense to you, right? So like, for example, in the grocery category, I have a client who's selling mushroom coffee. And I think one of the fields is, I forget what the field name is, but it has a list of valid values, meaning that you can only select something from that list. And it's all different types of cheeses. Obviously, that's not going to work for them, right? So skip over that field. Any field that does have the valid value and is relevant to your listing, you want to make sure that you're picking the value that's most relevant to you. Because what that is it ends up being a filter for the customer. So if they're shopping and they're filtering for something they specifically want, and you're in that category, right, you're going to most likely show up in the search, whereas you wouldn't if that field was not filled out. And the more relevant of customers that you can get on your product, the chances of your conversion rate going up, are much better.
Have you seen just improving or adding keywords or any of these things on the back end make an immediate bump for clients?
It's usually not as immediate as the front end of the listing, right? I do it all at the same time. So in the same week, right? So first I'll do parent-child variations, then I'll do like your title, bullet points, product description, and then maybe the next day I'll do search term and backend fields. So generally I don't see as much of an increase after I do the search term backend fields as I do with the keyword implementation and the parent-child variations.
Interesting. Yeah, I've got one of my products, I've got one of the listings pulled up on the back end. I'm looking at all the different fields you can fill out, and it's so many.
Yeah, and it's different by category too, right?
Yep.
So I've seen some categories where there's not much to fill out, and some categories where it just goes on and on and on. I think grocery is one of them where there's just so many fields to fill out, but it's worth your time to go through and just make sure you're selecting, what's relevant to you. There's also some fields like subject matter fields where you can plug in keywords. Helium 10 offers some really good information on how to do that in their Scribbles training video.
Mm-hmm. And is more always better in those fields?
Depends on the field, right? So fields like if you have access to like the ingredients field or indications or directions, not every category does, but where you do have access there, more is better because those are almost like additional product description fields, right? So the more keywords that you can get in there, those are going to be customer facing fields. So the customers will be able to read what's in there. That's just an extra boost in your SEO for those types of fields. For other fields where there's valid values, it's like you have a limit, right? You can usually only select 1 or up to 5.
Interesting. All right, let's talk now. Just real quick, we'll finish up with the actual listing optimization. We'll go through each one by one: title, images, bullets, and descriptions, and just go with your easy win. What your focus is when you're going on those. So, what about the title? What's the most important thing about the title that you have to get right?
So you have to have your most important keywords and keyword phrases. That's really key here. Intact keyword phrases in your title. So, the keywords that you have the best chance of ranking for, and then that also are highly searched should be in your title. You also want to have them throughout the rest of your listing, but especially in your title.
Do they have to be in order of the phrase? Like, what if you were selling a dog leash for poodles, let's say, and you've got dog leash, and then like at the end of your sentence, there's poodle. I mean, is that messing up your phrase? Does it have to be all intact, like you're saying?
So the phrase has to be all intact. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if it's like dog leash poodle, which doesn't really make sense to the reader, that might be a good keyword phrase to put in like your subject matter field. And choose, poodle dog leash instead for your title if that's a really highly searched keyword as well.
That's interesting. That's a good tip on how to do your back end keywords is rephrase everything.
Right. So the stuff that doesn't make sense to a human, put them in your back end fields. And go with what makes sense from a reading standpoint for your title.
Perfect. All right. Number one tip for images. What do you have to get right?
Images. So you really want to like reflect. I always say reflect what you have in your bullet points in your images. So I mean, like use text overlay on your images, because Amazon customers specifically are not going to read your bullet points. They might scan them, but they're not really going to read them. They're going to be focusing on the images. I mean, just think about when you shop on Amazon, right? You go to the images, you look through the images, you might scan through the product page to see if something jumps out at you to say like, hey, yeah, this is what I should buy. But you're going to spend most of the time in your images. So make sure you have text overlay, make sure you have infographics, so that some of that reading that would be in the text that is valuable, but you know that the customer is not going to read, put that as text overlay on your images.
That's a really good point. That's something I've been experimenting with. In fact, we were talking about this new product. My son was making the listings, or the images. We actually were trying to almost make the images like a tutorial on how to use the product, because it showed you like almost the directions, and it was like you're talking about. It was basically like a reflection of the bullet points, and that's sort of the first time that I've experimented with that, because I've noticed that on a lot of other listings. I'm like, there is a lot of infographics and text, and they're like not only just telling you about the product, but how to use the product, and where it's so that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's good for accessibility too. So that's always something to remember.
Bullet points, most important thing.
So bullet points, I always like to start off my bullet points with a all caps phrase, either a keyword phrase, or it doesn't have to be a keyword phrase, that just points out your main selling points, right? Quickly just lets the customer identify what the product is, what the benefits of it are, who it's for, and any other special, main selling points. Having it bolded in the front part of that bullet point before you go on to explain the rest of the selling point, it just allows customers to scan, right? Like we mentioned earlier, customers are going to be scanning anything in the bullet points and product description. So making it easy for them to scan is really important.
Very good. And now last, description / A+ content. I do have a question about the description, because this is something that everyone's talking about right now, is Amazon with their HTML knocking it out. Or we don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I have HTML in a lot of my descriptions, so I got to figure out. I was just talking to Chris about this also earlier. I was like, "Are you taking your HTML?" I mean, it's just like line breaks, and it's nothing really making it look good. It's nothing major, but so two things. If you have A+ content, are you still super focused on the description and making it right? And then what are you doing about HTML?
Sure. So the HTML, I've been on the soapbox screaming about this since they they announced it. So I've been annoying my email list about it. I've been annoying my Instagram followers about it. So basically what Amazon's doing is, as of July 17th, which happens to be my birthday, so I will remember, they are no longer honoring HTML formatting in their product description. So what that means is if you had line breaks in your product description, if you have bolded words in your description, any of that formatting that makes it easier to read, that's going to go away as of July 17th. I don't know if Amazon's going to penalize sellers for it, but they're just going to take it out, right? So it's going to just be a giant big blob of text that no one's going to read. Whereas before, maybe a handful of people were reading, but now nobody's going to read. So to me, and that kind of makes me go into this A+ content thing, is to me, that makes A+ content even more important, right? So that product description is now no longer valuable to the reader and to your customer. That A+ content is the way that you get informative, information to your customers in a way that they can actually read through it, and read through it in a way that's not like pulling your eyeballs out, right? So, focus on A+ content if you have access to it, I think is really important. And if you are trademarked and you don't have Amazon brand registry, just get registered. It's free. Just do it. It's not complicated. It's pretty easy. And then you have access to all sorts of things, A+ content, branded storefront, brand analysis reporting. I could go on and on.
I've seen some cases. I've seen it. People mention also on social media that they've seen where the A+ and the description have shown on a listing at the same time.
Oh, wow! I haven't seen that yet.
Which, that's, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's by category. I'm looking at a few listings now, and
that makes sense.
I don't know if that was temporary or not, but
maybe it was a glitch. But I'd seen that where I saw some screenshots where it was showing the A+ content in the description, and
could also be a timing issue too. Like if the A+ content just got approved, and maybe what I mean. It could just be a timing thing.
I don't know why they're taking that HTML out. I mean, they're only allowing you to use the basics anyway, and it looks like garbage.
Why they're doing it? This is my theory. They want brands to get on there and brand register their product.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing. So, it's, to me, it's really an incentive for their brand registry program. So now the description, is that just where you put every possible keyword that you need to rank for?
Yeah. You got a lot of room to write. You can write a lot.
I generally try to get more keywords in the title, the bullet points, and then if you have access to those, indications, ingredients, description fields, because if you do have A+ content, your product description is going to go away, and your A+ content isn't indexed. So what that means is Amazon search robots won't scroll and crawl that to say, oh, there's keywords in here. In the back end of A+ content where you plug in the images, there's also a place where you can plug in meta tags, and you can use keywords there, but you just don't have as much space as you would in product description. So I always say, go crazy with the keywords, not too crazy, don't keyword stuff, but go crazy with the keywords in the title, bullet points, and other fields that the customer can see before you do that in product description. Especially if you're going to replace it with A+ content.
That is good stuff. So anybody out there who's listening right now and they were going to bootstrap this whole process and they've been listening to this and they're like, okay, no, I'm not going to do this on my own. There's too much, because we barely even scratch the surface of what goes into the listing. But tell them how they can get in touch with you for your help.
So go to my website, www.stanzacretailconsulting.com. You guys have the list, put that in your show notes because I know it's a mouthful. Not many people can spell Stanzac. So go there, sign up for my email list, and also sign up for my first training for free from my e-course, right? So I offer my first training as a download for you guys. When you get to my website, you'll get one of those annoying pop-ups, and that's where you can get it from. But I mean, use it, right? And then from there, if you want to learn more, you can either work with me by scheduling a call. There's a contact me form on my website, and we can hop into a discovery call, talk about how I can support you. If you want to DIY it, I say the best way to do that is, purchase my e-course, and then if you still have questions, we can do one-on-one consultations. That's probably the most cost-effective way for some small businesses out there.
That's fantastic. I encourage everybody to absolutely do that. Go check out Megan. Her work is amazing. And especially if you're looking to ramp up your advertising or to start advertising, or you've got to get ready to book a demo with Chris Ryer to talk about Solozo, make sure you have this crossed off. You need to have this done right. Your ads are going to perform 1,000,000 times better. You're just going to set yourself up for success on the platform. So definitely check out Megan and all of her great work. And thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We'll get you back on again soon. It might be 6 months from now, and it'll seem like 2 weeks, just like it did last time. Right?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I love being on here with you guys.
Well, we love having you too. We appreciate it, and thanks for joining us. And everybody who's out there listening, if you like great content like this, make sure you've subscribed to our podcast. It's on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. We're on all of them. So please subscribe to it. Leave us a little review. We'd love that. Love to hear what you think about what we're doing. Also, you can subscribe to Solozo's YouTube channel, Solozo's Facebook page, Solozo's LinkedIn page. We live stream these videos to all of them as well. So then turn on notifications so you know when we're going live too. It'd be great. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Megan. And we'll be back at this again tomorrow. See ya.
Thanks, guys. See ya.